All right, thank you for staying with Citizen TV. The conversation still continues even during the break, but we're back now. We'd like to hear your views as well on the BBI. What do you agree with? What don't you agree with? What is your suggestion for the implementation? 22422 is the SMS line at Trevor Mvurya at Citizen TV Kenya, #Daybreak. And let's talk about the youth now. You've gone through this document. What do you think is there for them?
I think the document has kind of tried to highlight our issues. We have been unemployed for the longest time. We have been excluded for the longest time. So we've seen that the youth are trying to be included in the conversation.
But they are hired in state jobs.
We have seen in the past that something meant for the youth is actually going to the older people. So I'm hoping that this document now will bring about change, that those people who had been given jobs for the youth are taken away, and then the youth are brought back. But one thing that I did like was the tax breaks, about the tax break, because we as the youth are always the ones who are told, even by the president himself, you need to be self-employed. How can you be self-employed when you can't even get a loan from the bank? How can you be self-employed when you can't be able to afford even this tax, whatever that the government requires of you? Yeah. So it is something good, and those incentives that the BBI talks about for the youth and those to support art and the Juakali sector, that is also really good. The bottom-up rule was also very good for the youth, because we as the youth are the ones who are down here. We have always been the majority, but most of the time it's always been top-bottom, and it never trickles down.
Are you concerned about the implementation of all this?
I am very concerned about the implementation of all these things, because whatever has been said here, as I said, is more of a utopia kind of thinking, that we need all this should be done. But a majority of times, we as the youth have been told so much. We've been told about paid internships, we're still waiting. We've been told about more creation of jobs, so we are still waiting. So implementation should be the key. We as the youth should not be asking what is in it for us. We should be saying whatever has been there before, let it be implemented, because policies have been there before. That could actually help the youth. But you find because of corruption, because of people wanting power, they have forgotten that the youth have actually the ones who put them there. So they have taken this opportunity to loot money and all that. So as long as the BBI report is implemented, then the youth are fine.
All right. Well, Malo, you had concerns.
On the issue of the youth, research has shown that about 70% of unemployed people in this country are the youth. And the youth, I've just left the youth bracket just the other day. And one of the good things I saw in this proposal is the 7 years tax-free.
Yes,
you know, when you look at the research of small and medium enterprises, research shows that most of these SMEs die within the very first 3 years in operation, because they go through a lot of the teething problems. So I encourage the youth to come up with business-oriented projects, and this is the way to go. And by being given 7 years tax-free, I think that is that's a head start. Secondly, one of the proposals were that if you're a public officer, you should not do business with the government. To me, that's a very good opportunity. And the 30%, and you spoke about it yesterday, the 30% procurement projects,
access to government procurement
should be able to go to the youth and the marginalized.
But that's good on paper, but it's not happening.
Yes, absolutely. But we say the challenge has been in the implementation.
Yes.
The change is in the implementation.
Yes.
So that's why when these issues come on board and you say, how comes good policies are there, but implementation has been a challenge? And when it comes to implementation, there are fundamental issues that you must put in place when it comes to implement. One is issues of leadership, issues of structures, and resources. So this will maybe change how the government is going to prioritize its funding. Because this thing of the 30% of the youth has been there. But where has been the problem? Because you find the people in government are the ones who have been doing these projects. The person in charge of procurement is the one who has formed a company somewhere through proxies. He's the one doing the supplies. And the big customer in this country, wherever you go, it is the government. So if priorities can be given to the youth can be job creators. I can tell you the government cannot provide employment. It can only provide a conducive environment whereby the youth can come up, when there's startup capital, then they can employ themselves, then they can thrive. But we have obstacles whereby the people in government, wherever they are, maybe the chief procurement officers, the accountants, whoever they are formed cartels, they are companies that they are formed That's where the money goes to. In Trans Nzoia County, for instance, you had a procurement officer who was earning 100,000, but in his bank account, he was having 500 million. How can you explain that? Because you are in a vantage position. The youth are not in that vantage position. So some of the proposals are good, but what we are saying, they might not be the best. But why can't we refine on these proposals of BBI? Gladys Jolie has very good ideas. Bring them on board. Go and meet this community. Refine them further so that they can be implementable for the improvement and the welfare of this country.
Okay, you know, the thing is, I'm happy on this table, we have a consensus.
Yeah.
I've discovered that. We have all agreed that these issues that have been raised by BBI, are issues that we know, issues that we are not arguing with, issues that there is a state department for each of the issues that have been raised by BBI, except that they are not being implemented. It is a consensus on this table about that. If you look at deepen East African integration, that is already, there is a ministry for regional, for East Africa community. There is even a committee in Parliament, both in Parliament and the Senate, just dealing with this. So they should just do their job.
So what is
if it is about lending to the priority to the sector, and Tony here is an economist and he knows, that is solely in the hands of CBK. CBK can do that job. The governor of CBK should have been doing this. Does he require those people of BBI to tell him his job? Surely. Yeah? If you look at the issue of salaries, did we need BBI to tell us? We have a salaries and remuneration commission. They earn salaries. People should know these commissions are employed to do exactly this. If it is to broaden the tax base, I've said KRA, that is their job. If it is to creativity in sports and to encourage the private sector to support sport, I come from the sporting, the athletic world. The home of champions. The home of champions and the city of champions. The challenge here is we have a ministry of sports. We have a CAS for sports. We have a PS for sports. We have people who are employed. They fill a whole building just in sports. So what do you recommend? My thing is, I am asking very humbly, His Excellency the President, just get your state departments to work. Let them do their job. By firing them or what? By restructuring the entire system? If I was running, I say, how do you get people to work even when you're running a company? You get them to work. Your job is to, you have meetings, you have performance indicators. Why haven't you performed this? You're unable to do this, you move. We get another person who can do the job. We have cabinet meetings every Wednesday. Yes, we have cabinet meetings every Wednesday. You can move, and you can fire cabinet ministers, by the way. So we did not need BBI to come and tell us we need creativity in sports. And
there's something I want to say. She's talking about things that are actually true. But we did need the BBI report because the BBI report to wake us up. That was the point, to wake us up from the people, from Kenyans. Kenyans themselves to come and tell the government, the whole structure, that you need to wake up and work for us. That is why the BBI report is so important, and that's why it's going to build bridges and bring all of us together. That Kenya is for all of us. Let me do this. Let me read the preamble. Tony, can I read the preamble of the Constitution? It says, when we talk about inclusivity, it says, we the people of Kenya, proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, and determined to live in peace, unity, and one indivisible sovereign state. It also, let's jump, and then I'll say about the issue of divisive politics. Recognizing the aspirations of Kenyans for the government based on essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. It is in the preamble of our constitution. That's why everything, and I'm very detailed about what I have read, and I've made notes, as you can see. I was looking at what is been said by BBI and what is in the constitution.
The issues of inclusivity.
Let's hear from Tony.
Let me speak about unemployment. I think one of the main things we forget is that I think we had this government coming in with a manifesto, and they say they'll create 800,000 jobs. We have a Vision 2030. Not being implemented, but they collide with the manifesto of the current government. So the question we're asking is, if Kenyans are saying there is no jobs being created, does the manifesto of the current government, has it failed?
Big Four will create jobs.
The issue is that our economy, the way it's structured, the problem is the structure of our economy. It will not create jobs as we intend to. We create more jobs in the informal sector, which is low productive compared to the formal sector. And that's one thing that has been captured in the BBI report, saying that we need to structurally transform our economy to a right trajectory. So I think one of the main things that we'll want to see is what is the way forward.
Yeah.
Do we follow the Vision 2030?
Yeah.
Do we follow the manifesto, which have failed, or what is the direction?
So you know, my concern is, I'm actually reading it verbatim here of the BBI report. And number one, on the issue of inclusivity and prosperity, they say work towards an economic revolution. Yes. They say the current economy cannot produce the prosperity needed to meet the needs of the people,
Big Four cannot
and particularly
do that?
employment needed for the youth.
Yes. Big Four cannot do
My
that?
problem with this is then what is the counter resolution to it? It's just a statement. It's not saying how we do it. How do we do that?
Yeah, I assume that the Big Four and the Jubilee Manifesto was supposed to do that. Yeah. The overhauling of the National Treasury, trying to make changes, was supposed to do that.
Now,
don't forget that we have institutions to do that.
In terms of the economy, allow me to say this. You know, President Kibaki came to power with an ambition of economic recovery. Yeah. And at that particular...
Vision 2030.
Yeah. Before he came to Vision 2030, there was something called ERS, Economic Recovery Strategy. Yeah. And by then at that time, the GDP of this country was growing at a negative rate. He brought it up to about 7%. And Kibaki will be remembered for reviving this economy. Yeah. When you look at the public debt at that time, Kibaki lost power. When he left power, I think in terms of the external debts, you're about 1 point something.
Yeah, around 1.5 trillion.
Yes. Yeah. So when you look at the Jubilee government at the moment, they've been very ambitious. When it comes to external borrowing, it's been very, very excessive. You know, right now we are in excess
BBI
of.
Says we spend
right
like
now,
there's no tomorrow.
Right now we're in excess of about 6 trillion. Yeah. Recently in Parliament, we changed the ceiling, the borrowing ceiling, to 9 trillion. We are told it's supposed to go up to 2022 or 2024 there, but from the look of things, this government says it wants to go for concessional loans. You know, concessional loans normally. The interest rate is less, maybe 1%, 2%, so that it can be able to restructure the debt structure, so that the expensive loans that we got maybe from commercial, domestic, of 10%, 9%, can be able to be, they can be able to furnish that, to pay off that, and that has a positive aspect. And that's why we decided as parliamentarians, it made a lot of sense to extend the ceiling trillion to 9 trillion, so that this government should not borrow excessively, but borrow wisely. And when it comes to borrowing, it must be approved by Parliament. So in terms of the economy, when you look at the Jubilee compared to Kibaki government, Jubilee has done poorly when it comes to the economic revival. We have so many projects. It has come up with good infrastructure projects. For example, the SGR. When you do a comparative analysis of SGR in Kenya and the one of Ethiopia, you find in Kenya it's in excess of 3 times. Why? Because if something like this is costing 10 shillings, they'll cost it 100 shillings. 10 shillings goes to the project, 90 shillings go to some people's pockets. So the big problem has been corruption in this country. And corruption was one of the thematic area when it came to the issues of corruption. It is a big problem. So the 5% incentive that whoever comes out and all that, again, we should look at it carefully so that we don't create another problem when it comes to the whistleblowers on the issue of the 5%. But I like the issue of the public officers should not do business with the government. So what I'm trying to push across is this. Yeah, absolutely. What I'm trying to push across is this. Let's listen to the Foreign Affairs Minister, Kabudi, what he said. When you compare Tanzania and Kenya, we have this ethnic diversity. When it comes to the cabinet, for instance, the cabinet should reflect the face of Kenya. I come from Western region. In terms of population currently, Luhya's we estimate to be maybe number 1, followed by the other areas. Though the Foreign Affairs Minister told us we should not look into it as ethnic groups, but we should look at it as Kenya, which is something positive. But in Kenya, everybody wants to go for presidency so that they can have the national cake. And the powers of the presidency has not even changed yet. Absolutely. And that's why some of us, we have problems. When you talk of inclusivity, winner takes it all. That's why we want to look at the way this thing of Prime Minister has been captured. So and you're not happy with that part of it? That's why I told you 60% I'm okay. How I wish that we go to the critical issues, then I'll say where I'm not so comfortable with this report. But as I said earlier, there's room for improvement.
Okay, I have to take a quick break here. When we come back, Anne will tell us from our interaction with all these politicians what she thinks the problem is and what the youth are recommending from the people they speak to. Also, I'll read some of your feedback. There's a lot of it coming through. Just keep them coming. 22422. If you're texting, tell us your name and where you're texting from. And at Citizen TV Kenya, Trevor Mvurya, use the hashtag Daybreak. We're back in just a bit. Keep your views coming on the BBI. I promise you I'll sample some of them in just a bit.